Also, remember, it was recently, they are those young people that pushed Google not to censor Chinese search results. And for Google, it was not an easy decision to make, but the pressure was too high. Also, they have pushed this sustainability agenda that was mentioned earlier, which make companies, whatever the sector, in the necessity to make some quite radical changes. It's not only a question of the way they advertise, but it's very quickly coming to the question of business models. And huge generation had and have to listen to them. The best example I know is the PepsiCo one. Fabulous Indriya Nooyi, the CEO of PepsiCo, she transformed the company within 2 years in an incredible way, making this company a true CSR responsible actor and really a champion of employee engagement and respect and consideration to the people and also to the environment. So people like those and companies like those obviously show the way. That generation has an agenda for change. Again, it's not a joke for them, it's a question of survival. And what is probably new, they have the power to dictate the change due to the revolution of the social media and due to what we call the age of conversation. It should be obvious for all of us that the main issue we are facing is trust. I have no time to develop that, but we just realized, made a survey in the US, Western Europe, and China. In 100% of the most influential blogs of those countries, and the results we got in terms of trust are incredible. The level of trust in institutions, companies, leaders has come to nothing. And the issue for that, with that, for us, PR people, is that with no trust, there is no thing. We can do nothing if we cannot base what we do for our clients on a minimum of trust. So big, big issue for the times to come. And we can see the emergence of a certain form of radicalism back to the 60s, not again in terms of violence, physical violence, but in terms of use of internet and to push kind of e-boycotts, if you want, of companies and brands with a lot of success. So the people we serve and the consumers we obviously depend on for growth, they don't believe in the big business community anymore. There is an incredible, again, level of distrust towards those business communities. They do not understand the language. They do not accept the reasons which are proposed by the companies. They don't accept that forever shareholders should have the maximum of benefits from the profit as opposed to the rest of the company. There is a very hot example in France at the moment with a US company called Molex, closed the plant in the south of France, fired hundreds of people, and made 14% more profits and gave 13.5% of the 14% of the profit to shareholders. And typically today, no PR company, whatever the talent of this company, can make people accept that kind of attitude. So, you know, it's really also what the financial crisis revealed. How can you get those incredibly big bonuses at the cost of the people who work in the factories, in the companies? Again, 5 years ago, that would have been left-wing journalist opinion. Today, it is a generation opinion. And it's also something you can see in nearly all the Western worlds, a little less, of course, in Asia, but even in Asia, that kind of feeling is starting to grow. So don't believe that they are just interested in having fun and gaming and watching Avatar. And by the way, Avatar is a fantastic metaphor of social networks. You know, when the community meets to cure somebody, they hold each other, and the power of the connection makes it happen, which is exactly, finally, what we speak about. So they have their own agenda, and of course, they are pushing brands that they would consider as being brands that fit very well with what they believe in as a generation. That's a true issue for our clients. All the leading brands that you see on the left side of the screen are now subject to question, while the emerging brands gain power and consideration every day. And it's interesting, it's another revolution, because in the past, and for the past 60 years, we all accepted the fact that if you were a market leader, you were going to stay a market leader. It was okay, it was a given. Now it's nearly the reverse. Market leaders are at stake, and emerging brands and actors are much more in favor. If you are a market leader, you know that your reputation is going to be at stake every day, every single day. And if you make a lot of profits, and if you have a high level of financial performance, if you give lots of money to your executive, you're going to create some issues in terms not only of public opinion, but more and more in terms of what I would call public acceptance, which is far more difficult to deal with. So companies have hardly ever been popular, we know that. Now the challenge is even greater because it's very easy to target them, and each blogger, anytime, anywhere, can create an incredible level of damage in terms of reputation within a couple of seconds and at no cost. It's a paradox, and in the sense that we don't believe and should not believe that this is the end of the big corporations the way you knew it, we knew it for the past decades. We can still believe and try to convince our clients that a market leader can remain a market leader as long as it will also be an ethical leader and a company you can rely on in terms of ethics. Google is an interesting example. Google is not an angel. Google is not ideal, but Google is trying hard around their mantra, do good, as you know, and they really try to build most of their strategy around that. Toyota is a very interesting company. The Prius issue has been tough, but the last elements we got, and it's big clients of Publicis Group, show that the brand equity has not been affected. Has not been affected as it could have been affected because Toyota had been giving some evidence of their commitment to developing cars which don't harm the planet. And so the benefit of this goodwill was very helpful for them when it came to what they've been through. Nike, how not quoting Nike, excellent example of a company that has been to hell a couple of years ago when it was learned that they were producing in countries with very poor workforce conditions, and now, of course, they have rebuilt their whole strategy and brand politics around being clean forever. So we believe and should believe that big corporations can help because they have an ability to solve the problems of the world, which is obviously far higher than smaller companies. They have big capabilities, big resources. They can have a huge usage of technology. So They should play a key role, and again, P&G is not an angel. It's not the point. P&G is a great company which is definitely inspired by the commitment they have to what they call improving life and improving people's lives and touching life. Xenia showed me yesterday the example of what she did on this terrible butterfly sickness here on the Croatian market, and it's a very good example of the way they commit themselves to trying to help the community. They did a lot, as you can see, in terms of reducing their ecological footprint. Nestlé is another interesting case. You know, when you are the #1 nutrition company in the world, obviously you have a lot of attention to give to what you do to the community, and they do quite a lot. Today, L'Oréal, of course, is an interesting example too, especially with the Women in Science initiative they've been following for the past years, and which is, I think, giving some pretty interesting results. Now, it's possible, if you really want it, if you believe you need to do it, to reinvent. And again, in the continuity of what Professor said before, I think PR, as we could see, gained some credibility in the C-suite at the highest level of decision-making in companies. And this means that PR, the new way, if I can say so, is credible to help clients think about the way they should reinvent their business and their relationship with people and communities. This is probably the new PR and the new way we should do our job, trying to help companies to change. Look at McDonald's. 5 years ago, would you have expected McDonald's in France, for instance, to be seen as the place to eat a salad? And this is what you eat in McDonald's in France now, more salads than hamburgers. Yeah, you can make change. It's not easy, but you can. And let's not be ethnocentric and just focusing on our own companies in the Western world. Let's be humble and look at fabulous examples that come from a country like India. So many companies in this country show the way and showed the way long time ago. The most fabulous example, in my view, is Tata. It was in 1917, that Tata, inspired by this philosophy that they call give back what you get, introduced pay leave in 1920 and maternity pay in 1928. No Western companies had done that, right? And we have a lot to learn from them. Infosys is a very good example too. They do a lot in terms of employee education and welfare. I cannot develop everything, but Banco Real does a lot as well, and Brazil is a very good example of the way things are moving from a political standpoint as well as from a business standpoint. So many examples of initiative that we should really consider and work on. Now, if companies are to reinvent, of course, they need to realize that they are creating a new compact with the words consumers and people.